I'm just very excited to watch this movie with you guys.
Let's put 5 on it.
Let's put 5 on it. Oh, that's our good intro. I like that. Welcome to this ability clinic where we need to make a statement the whole world will see.
I didn't just need to kill you. I needed to make a statement that the whole world would see.
Addie's double stares at the Hands Across America t-shirt.
This spooky season, we're breaking down Jordan Peele's second film, simply titled Us. But this isn't like all the other breakdowns you've seen because we're breaking down the film while critiquing the audio description track and exploring the nuances of this chilling story through a disability lens. I'm Dr. Stephanie Van. I'm a Vietnamese woman with my dark hair up in a bun, wearing a pink top and long dangling earrings, sitting in front of a colorful bookshelf. We got Thomas Reed, host of Read My Mind Radio, and actor and producer Audrey A.J. Murray. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Great to be here.
Hey, I'm Thomas Reed. I'm a brown-skinned black man with a smooth-shaven bald head, full neat beard, sprinkled with a little bit of salt and pepper, and I am wearing dark shades seated in my vocal booth at home in the Poconos of Northeast Pennsylvania. Steph, I gotta say it, only 90 miles from the place I always call home, and that's the Bronx, New York. I also have on a Wu-Tang t-shirt.
You got Wu-Tang. Hey, my name is Audrey A.J. Murray. I'm an African-American male with short hair, with black headphones. I'm sitting in my power chair in my room, which is painted a dark blue. Yeah.
What version do you have? I think there's 2 versions with different audio description.
Oh, really?
Well, I watched it. I rented it from Prime.
I got it from my bootleg site. There was actually 3 that came up, right? So there was the first one, and it said Us, whatever. Then there was one that said Us with new description. So that's why I was like, oh, okay, I'll check this one out.
I think the Amazon version is probably the widely available one, but I'd be interested if the newer version, maybe it's better. Maybe they made improvements, but
I'll see if it's different from the one that I heard.
All right, it's just a few seconds. I'm just going to play it from the beginning.
First, front, and center.
Oh, see, this one is different. This is different.
Okay, and this is a Caucasian voice, like immediately.
That's Roy. Yep.
You know him.
Yeah. But it's funny because Roy did Get Out, and he did this one as well. And I'm like, Now, I don't necessarily classify Get Out or Us as quote unquote black movies, but I do think that both of these should have had a black audio description narrator. I do. And some may not agree with that. I mean, I think they did fine.
I raised my eyebrow, like, why? Like, I was just watching something, and I was like, there was a white narrator again, and the cast was all black. I was just like, they did it again.
Yep, too often. It's too often.
Yeah, it's an industry standard that needs to change.
The hand stirs a teacup. Water streaks a window. Words appear. Monkey Paw Productions.
I like the monkey paw because the monkey paw refers back to Get Out, and with the stirring of the teacup.
Yes, that is true.
Oh, I didn't even notice that the first time.
In the living room, a slow-moving view closes in on a bulky television set.
Tonight's storm is causing all kinds of problems around the bay. Pete Giddings will have the forecast, and we'll show you what would happen to the bay if some scientists' predictions come true. All on set.
Now a commercial plays.
What has 12 million eyes, 192 million teeth, and stretches from the Golden Gate Bridge all the way to the Twin Towers? It's Hands Across America, a 4,000-mile-long chain of Good Samaritans standing hand in hand.
We'll start with some audio description critique too, because in the beginning, when you're zooming in on the commercial for the Hands Across America, you're hearing the commercial, you're seeing the people holding hands and being hopeful in the 80s, but it's actually on like an old-timey television set from the 80s with a dial, and there's like VHS tapes lined up next to it, and each VHS tape is a little Easter egg. Like one is for the Goonies, one is for Chud, which is a movie about like sewer people.
They're coming up. Chud.
There's a lot of visuals there that unfortunately the audio description doesn't get to.
Yeah. Now the Hands Across America, that was real, wasn't it?
Yes.
Real thing in the 80s.
Yeah, because I was like, do I remember? I kind of remember it, but were they successful? Did they pull it off?
That's kind of part of the social commentary of this Easter egg. It was marketed as this great successful thing, help feed the homeless, help feed the hungry. You pay $10 to hold hands for 15 minutes across America. But I think it actually resulted in like a loss of money, or, you know, a lot of the money went to the organizers, and it wasn't as good as it appeared to be.
Right. Because I kind of remember it, but I don't remember ever even looking it up, or even back then, just kind of, because I was around in 86. I graduated high school. Anybody want to do the calculation? So, but I don't remember if it actually, was successful.
And that's the layered imagery of like, okay, something that appears to be one thing, but isn't in reality, or is less charitable or wholesome as it appears.
Yeah.
Okay, what do you think, Addie? Should we stop or keep going?
The young girl turns to her mother.
Don't look at me. It's your birthday.
Addie points.
I want number 11.
Yeah?
That one?
Yeah.
That one.
The employee hands a black t-shirt to the tall man. The shirt reads Michael Jackson's Thriller. The man gives it to his daughter.
Yeah.
That shirt better not give her nightmares.
In trouble for winning my daughter a t-shirt. That's a new one.
Wearing the oversized t-shirt, Addie gazes at her father, who keeps his attention on the whack-a-mole game. She looks away and starts walking. A long-haired young man holds a cardboard sign which reads, Jeremiah 11:11. He stares at Addie, who walks past him. She watches a pair of teens playing rock, paper, scissors. Addie approaches a staircase to the beach. She still holds the candy apple.
I mean, this movie is filled with references and metaphors and Easter eggs.
It's almost overwhelming. Like, even just from the audio description, did you guys get a sense of like, okay, there's already recurring themes? Like, what were you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Well, I mean, already the 11, right? Jeremiah 11. She chose number 11.
Mm-hmm.
That with the Michael Jackson, the whole zombies of Thriller, that whole thing being surrounded to the shirt being surrounded by the zombies. But the 11, I just actually when they brought it back up, I was like, oh, 11, the number 11 by itself is a twin. 1-1. That's a twin. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Yeah.
And then 11:11 is like a double of a double. Oh my gosh.
It's a double. Plus the meaning behind Jeremiah 11. 11:11. Therefore, this is what the Lord says. I'm about to bring on a disaster that they cannot escape. They will cry out to me, but I will not hear them.
Another little thing in the visual there, you know, she's passing people in the carnival, and there's two people like playing rock, paper, scissors. And every time they throw, you know, rock, paper, scissors, shoot, they're throwing the scissors. They're throwing the two fingers, you know, peace actions.
So you're looking at that as 11 and the scissors that they use.
Yeah. There's references to 11 all throughout. All right, we get it.
See, I kind of like that because not everyone's going to get the same thing. So somebody might get that first 11, and then, you know, so some people won't necessarily notice the trend like that. So I think you give people a lot of different opportunities. I think that's kind of cool.
The little girl hesitates before heading down the stairs. On the boardwalk above, people enjoy the chair swing ride as it rotates rapidly. Addie makes her way across the sand. Addie's Thriller t-shirt features Michael Jackson surrounded by zombies. Lightning flashes in the distant sky. Behind Addie, two people stand by a small fire. The little girl turns around and walks forward. Addie stares at a lit-up attraction, which features an image of a Native American man pointing. A sign below the man reads, Shaman's Vision Quest. Find yourself. An arrow points to its entrance. Addie approaches. She lowers her arm and drops her candy apple in the sand.
This is kind of silly, but she dropped her candy apple to go to the front. I was like, I would have never dropped my candy apple. I'm finished.
Oh no, Jordan Peele right now. I don't believe it.
I feel like there's meaning in the dropping of the candy apple. First of all, who the hell eats candied apples? I don't know how they things sell. I don't see that. But is she about to leave her sweet life?
Yeah,
yeah.
Addie slowly proceeds down a corridor. Murals of a forest cover the walls. Lights softly illuminate the space. Addie looks around curiously. An animatronic owl pops out of the wall, startling her. The owl retracts back into a hole carved inside a fake tree. Addie walks past a funhouse mirror and stares at her distorted reflection. The lights turn off. Dim overhead light shines softly on Addie's head. The frightened little girl looks around. Addie spots an exit sign in the distance. She hurries toward it. Addie walks straight into a large mirror. The little girl looks around. Addie stands with her back against a mirror. She steps forward as she whistles. Addie continues through the forest-themed hall of mirrors. Addie stops whistling and listens. She scans the area. Addie steps backward toward the back of a little girl with identical braided pigtails and clothing. As Addie looks around, the other girl remains perfectly still. Addie slowly turns around, but the other girl keeps her back to her. Addie gapes with wide eyes.
Did you think the opening was creepy? Was it spooky?
Oh, yeah, I think it's creepy. Carnivals themselves are freaking creepy because you got the carnies, okay, House of Mirrors and all those, the fun houses or whatever they call them. Very creepy.
Fun house seems very creepy to me. As a matter of fact, it doesn't seem fun at all. That wouldn't have been me. I'm not going anywhere by myself like that, you know.
It strikes me like as a parent, and also just as someone who was a kid and it just kind of wandering away, like there's a double thing there. That when I was watching, I was like, ooh, yeah, I feel a lot of stuff there. Like, ooh, and the light turning off. No, we got a problem.
I like that it starts in a carnival where you think, oh, this is supposed to be like a fun, innocent setting, like a girl with her parents. Maybe it's her birthday. Her dad's wearing her t-shirt. Like that sounds nice. But even like the coloration, the scene, it's dark. It's kind of washed out. There's not like bright colors. It's kind of moody already. There's like purples and yellows and blacks.
And then she's on the beach by herself.
And it's at night.
It's at night.
See, I didn't realize that until later. Something came up I was like, oh my gosh, I thought it, because in my mind it's daytime because it sounds like the daytime.
Yeah, and it's already kind of jarring how like, okay, she's at a carnival, but she doesn't really feel like she's smiling. Like it doesn't look like she's smiling. Her parents don't seem happy. There's kind of tension there.
Yeah.
As she starts to wander away through the carnival, that's when the creepiness really builds. Like you're already kind of uncomfortable, and then like, okay, now she's alone, and now she's going to this house of mirrors. That's how the tension builds visually for me.
Yeah.
And I think there's something inherently creepy about twins, and then also children like creepily humming or whistling.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think it's, and also just looking back at this and knowing where it's going to go at the end, just the writing and the mastery of putting this stuff together is just so wonderful, because when you can call back to that same scene that you're going to look at later on in such a different way, I love that. I love that.
That's some mastery filmmaking right there. Like Jordan Peele does that so consistently. It's impressive. We're kind of fast forward a little bit. Addie, our main character, she's all grown up. She's going to this beach house vacation with her family. She's kind of reluctant. You don't really know why she doesn't want to go. And now they're in this beach house, and Addie's kind of daydreaming again and remembering this part of her childhood.
The slender woman remembers herself as young Addie, lining up toy animals side by side in an indoor sandbox.
I think she has post-traumatic stress disorder.
She wasn't in 9. Okay, she got lost. The 15 minutes,
that can be very scary.
You don't know what happened. Anything could have happened to her.
So how do we get her to talk?
I just want my little girl back.
Young Addie stares at her parents in the therapist's office. The little girl wears a deadpan expression as she watches her mother cry. Russell goes to grab his wife's arm, but she pulls it away and rubs her forehead. The tall man rises to his feet.
I need to help smoke.
Holding a pack of cigarettes, Russell goes into the waiting room and approaches his daughter. She looks up and stares at him. Russell lingers over the little girl. He affectionately tugs on her dress sleeve. Russell touches her pigtail, then pats her on the head and steps out to the hall.
It's just really interesting just watching it again, because it's like, you know why she appears to have post-traumatic stress disorder, and like we know why she's kind of deadpan, because that's her doppelganger. There's nothing, you know.
Oh yeah, spoilers, by the way.
Way to spoil it.
Oh. Well,
good night, everybody.
This is the magic of editing.
Well, it's interesting that you said that she was deadpan, because you're absolutely right. But Thomas, did you get that from the audio description, or like, what did you get from that little child therapy scene?
One of the things I find interesting, and I don't know the relevancy of this, but the whole conversation around PTSD and the father's response, she wasn't in 9. Now, and to me, that's kind of funny, but it's also indicative of the way we thought about mental health in the 1980s. You know what I'm saying? Like that's so real. No one but Army vets or military vets had PTSD, and even that was kind of relatively new conversation at that time. I don't think they were kind of just diagnosing them that way when they came home. You know,
and
what I mean?
it wasn't called that at the time. It was called shell shock.
Yeah, right.
You know, PTSD, as far as like, it's a fairly new term. Well, it's not that new, but it wasn't always around.
Well, it was there, but not applying outside of the military, right? So,
Yeah.
so it was
Not to
reserved to
children,
that,
like little
and not
kids.
to children. Right, exactly.
Yes.
Sort of to like what you were saying, AJ, the spoiler king. The
Sorry.
the idea when the mother says, you know, she's not my little girl. Again, people use that all the time. Like you're just not yourself, you know?
Right, just
Yeah, I
snap
love
out
that.
of it.
Yeah.
Even outside of PTSD, like I feel like that also speaks to just communication expectations. Like you expect a child to be bubbly and communicative, and a little girl, you expect her to be affectionate and verbal. And when that expectation isn't met, there's quote unquote something wrong. I actually give the therapist some credit. She's like, we should encourage her to dance. We should encourage her to do art. Like that kind of reminded me of Mr. Rogers, you know, just like kind of letting children express themselves. And
I like every part of you.
I have a friend that works with young children that goes through a significant amount of serious trauma. You know, often they're sexually abused or other things going on. And one of the tools that they use is drawing as a way to open up lines of communication if you're not ready to be verbal, so to speak, to express your emotion.
I think this was a good display of how being nonverbal or less verbal is not acceptable to society. Certainly back in the 80s, but even today. And what I don't think is really conveyed in the audio description is that when the father kind of goes up, get a smoke, he pats his daughter on the head, tugs at her shirt. She's just kind of staring blankly back at him. Like, who are you? You know, like not really showing warmth towards her dad. And I feel like that's the even creepier part. It's not that she's not saying anything, is that she's not expressing a connection.
Yeah.
In this case, I mean, it could just be, right? I mean, if we're going to bring disability into this,
Yeah.
it could just be. It may not be creepy. So
That's true. And like the father, like he's doing his best in his own way. It's like he's trying to show her affection. Like he doesn't want to believe something is quote unquote wrong with her. And so he's still going to treat his daughter like his daughter.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing that's so good about the writing too in the movie too, is because we know the context of the movie that she's experienced these things because she's doppelganger, but it could be presented as all these things because when you go through post-traumatic stress disorder, these things that she's displaying kind of present themselves.
I'm going to fast forward us to the family meeting up with their family friends. And there's a lot of great imagery and storytelling that we can't really get into, but the grownups are just talking about stuff that they have. They're talking about, does he have all the stuff for the boat? The women are talking about plastic surgery and, you know, a lot of superficial materialistic things. That's a whole like subset of the film that isn't directly disability related. It's more like just American materialistic.
Yeah.
That kind of commentary. Then we go to the kids on the beach and we see how the kids are playing. And there's definitely a difference between the son in the family, Jason, versus the daughters.
Near the water, Jason plays in the sand. Becca and Lindsay do cartwheels and handstands. Wearing an earbud, Zora looks at her phone. One of the twins cartwheels onto Jason's sand sculpture.
Oops. What was it?
Just a stupid tunnel.
These toys are such baby shit.
Zora looks up as the twins approach. One of them continues to cartwheel around.
Your brother's so weird. He just has a hard time focusing.
Jason walks away.
Are you going in the water? No. Why not?
Hey, where are you going? To the bathroom.
Why don't you pee in the ocean? Jinx, double jinx, triple jinx, blackout. Shut up.
Jason walks alone on the beach near the Hall of Mirrors. He runs at a seagull and scares it away. Kitty smiles at Addie.
I think I could have been a movie star if the girls hadn't been born at exactly the wrong time. I went to Stella Adler.
Addie looks around the bustling beach. Two young men carry a woman to the water. A man bursts out of the sand. Addie watches seagulls cluster nearby. A flying disc flies between Kitty and Addie.
Jesus, watch it.
The disc sits perfectly on a spot on a towel. Addie lifts it.
That's crazy. Been having so many crazy coincidences lately.
Yeah, I was just struck by like how Kitty is so. She seems like she really desired something that she could have had. You know, like I want to be an actor, and I was just laughing because she mentioned Stella Adler. Stella Adler is a very famous like acting coach. She seems to like want another life she could have had.
Oh, that is a huge theme of the movie, dude.
Yep.
You just hit it right on the head.
You know, the thing that just jumped out was that guy who's jumping out of the sand, bursting out of the sand like that. I was like, oh, look at that one. Yeah.
It's a weird jump scare. So random.
Yeah. But it makes sense on the beach. I guess, you know, they buried him on the beach or whatever, that type of thing.
Yeah, and he's coming up from under the ground, scaring people.
Would Jason be considered someone on the spectrum, a neurodivergent in any way?
I think that's a very valid question. And I think there's deliberate demonstrations of some neurodivergent features. Absolutely. What made you think of that?
Well, I mean, just the way, you know, he's always kind of by himself, especially when he's hiding later on. And that's like seems to be his place. Like, I think that happened earlier when he first went into there. The mask thing, right? Didn't he have a fidgety toy?
Literally masking? Yeah,
literally masking. And the fidgety toy thing.
What are you doing? It's a magic trick.
Yeah.
So he's stimming.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Now that you said it, because on the surface, I was just kind of thinking, you know, this is a young boy. You know, he has an older sister, but maybe the older sister doesn't pay that much attention to him, and oftentimes it doesn't just have to be boys, but oftentimes when you're younger or when you might be in the opposite sex, you might just go off and do your own thing, you know.
Shout out to my sister. She and I were close when we were younger. So. She's my older sister.
I think that's such a valid point because you don't have to be neurodivergent to kind of play on your own or like be called weird or not want to socialize with 16-year-old twin girls who are annoying. There are lines in the movie, the twins literally describe him as like, oh, he's weird. And then his sister describes it like, oh, he just has trouble focusing.
Yeah.
You know, lots of kids are described that way.
She was sticking up for her little brother.
Yeah, like that's strong. That's a strong sibling connection. Just because they're different doesn't mean they can't be, you know, allies.
And then I know this is obviously a part of the plot, but I was just kind of thinking like,
hold on, spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
No, it's not. But I'm very surprised that she would go somewhere that familiar to her trauma, you know, because I don't know, does it allude to the movie? Is that the same place or?
It is.
I found that odd too, because they've been together for quite some time, and it doesn't seem like he recognizes or maybe not even knows about the beach. And I mean, we find that out later why that is the case. But that was one of the things that jumped out. I'm like, that seems weird that he wouldn't know about this.
And I think, you know, before they go for the vacation, she's actually resisting it. So it already kind of triggers her when her husband even brings up the location. It's like, hey, let's go to this beach house. She was actually like, no, we're not doing it. So certainly it's clear earlier in the movie that like something is not 100% about this beach. It's so interesting that you bring that up. And it's like, we have to be nitpicky with Jordan Peele because that's his genius. Like he probably didn't overthink this, but like it takes so much effort to find little holes in his, you know, elaborate web of storytelling. But it is harkened back in the plot that they were there at least the previous year because there was like a fire and, you know, like there was some story with the Jason's like fire trick. So they had just been there. So it wasn't like they'd never been there or, you know, I think that's a little inconsistent there. But that leads us nicely into the next scene where Addie does open up to her husband.
You're in the Hall of Mirrors.
She wasn't a reflection.
She was real. She...
Identical to young Addie, the other girl turns around. She grins and stares at Addie.
I ran as fast as I could. My whole life, she's still coming for me.
Okay, well, whatever happened a long time ago, right?
Addie sits with Gabe.
You know how sometimes things line up?
Yeah.
You know, like coincidences. Since we've been here, they've been happening more and more. I feel like it means like she's getting closer.
The mirror girl?
Addie lowers her gaze.
You don't believe me?
I do. I'm processing. Okay? Can't believe you kept all this inside for so long.
She turns away from him.
I'm pretty sure I could kick your ass, so she looks like you. And...
He mimes punching her. She stares.
Okay, bad joke. All right. Sorry, my bad. Just trying to lighten the mood.
The lights go out.
First, I was struck like, why would she share that story like that? That's kind of weird to me because she is who she is, right? Because of the end, right? It seems a little weird for her to be sharing that story.
But I'm glad you brought this up because could it be one of those things where, like, she might have like known who she was when she first got here, but maybe like she suppressed that and like so maybe I don't think she realized she was a doppelganger until the end.
No, she's fooling you. She's been acting her whole life like she's the not.
Yeah.
I think she's acting, but I think she's genuinely scared that Red, real Addie, is gonna come get her.
She feels her. She literally feels her presence, right? She noticed, well, at least that there was things that are going seeming weird, all these coincidences, right?
Yes.
So is this some sort of women's intuition kind of thing happening here that you can sense something you feel? It reminds me of my wife and I sometimes when she'd be like, something's wrong, and I'll be like, girl, what's the matter with you? Everything good, everything good. And then all of a sudden, I'll be like, oh damn. Right.
Yeah, and then like, but I just want to plead my case a little bit more because of the way the way the shot was. I know y'all saying she knew the whole time, but there's this particular time where she's driving and her eyes look like she just discovered, like her eyes look big, like she's just discovering. Oh, I remember. Her face did not look like I've known this the whole time.
It's kind of cool that you could totally interpret it that way with AJ, kind of, that perspective of she's fully convinced herself that she's the non-tether, like she has a soul or whatnot.
Yeah, in a way, you have to do that because you're over here. You're not in the underground. You're over here now, and so in order to do that, you have to adapt in your brain. This is who I am now. I'm not the doppelganger, so I have to.
I love that, AJ, actually, because I feel like the real thrilling twist of this movie is that, like, you cannot actually tell the difference. Like, she was born a tether, technically has no soul or whatever the premise is, but she's been able to fool everyone around her. Maybe she's fooled herself. And that's the scary thing is, like, in our culture, our society, materialistic, superficial, it doesn't matter whether or not you have a soul.
We all bring our own thing to the table, right? And so I'm relating this to the skill of acting and what's required. Like when you were talking about she has to become that person, I'm like, wow, that sounds like folks who are acting, right? And you have to take on that character and you have to really feel that character and become that character.
I've heard of cases where sometimes you're so submerged in your role that you lose yourself. I met somebody at a workshop and she said she was doing a play and she got so submerged in a role that by the end of the play she had to go to the hospital. Because she had a mental breakdown. I was just like, wow.
That's method acting right there.
Yeah.
Wow. Dangers of method acting. If you want to support us and the channel even more, check out our Patreon page where you can contribute any amount towards producing more content like this. Check the link in the description.
If you like this breakdown, like us.
And subscribe.
And let us know what movie or TV show you would like to see next.